Hey friends, welcome back to my channel. My name is Victoria, and today I'm going to be talking about some series that I do not plan on finishing. I have had this video idea for a while because I've been accumulating like this big list of series that I've decided to stop and not continue for whatever reason. But then I also recently saw Bree from In 11 Words do this video, so I will link her video down below if you want to go watch another one. I very much recommend her video. She had some great series on her list, some of which I very much agreed with her and might even have some on the same one, and also some series on her list that I love, so I was sad to see them on her list. But I love seeing people's book tastes and how they differ, and seeing what series she does like and what series she doesn't like versus what I think about them. So I always enjoy hearing that and seeing that, so that was great. You should definitely go watch her video. But for my video, I'm going to be doing some series that I have read however many books in the series. Some of these I've only read the first book, and some of them I've read 3 out of the 4 books and just don't plan on reading the rest of them. And I just am not going to be continuing on in the series. Some of them I loved the first one but have no desire to continue, and some of them I don't want to continue because I hated the books that I read in the series. So I will say what I feel about the ones that I read and everything with each of the series, but this will not just be books that I didn't like in this video. I also am entirely open to hearing what you guys think of the books, so if you want to try and convince me, if some of your favorite series are on this list and you want to try and convince me to continue reading them, I'm totally open to hearing what you guys have to say and trying to convince me to continue reading these series. So without further ado, I am going to start, and we are going to start strong with a series that is a very unpopular opinion because so many people absolutely adore this series, and that is the Green Creek series by TJ Klune. I read the first book in this series, Wolf Song, and I gave it 3 stars. I was bored. It was incredibly long, and I understand where people are coming from and their love for the book and the found family aspect in it, but it was way too long, and it was incredibly boring for me. I just didn't care. I wasn't as emotionally invested in the characters and the found family aspect because I was so bored. I think I did listen to the audiobook for this book. I did not read it physically or on the ebook. I did listen to the audiobook, and I remember falling asleep during this and having to go back and like re-listen to the parts where I had fallen asleep. And I had never done that before, and I have never done that since. That is how incredibly bored I was during reading this book. And I know that the second one in the series is like an entire retelling of the first book, but from a different character's point of view, because it's a different romance, so it's like their point of view of what's going on. But it's like the same timeline as the first book, and I just have absolutely no desire to do that and to read another gigantic book I don't connect to. So if you don't know, this is a paranormal series. They follow werewolves, and the Wolf Song, the one that I read, was like from childhood. The love interests met each other when they were very, very young, and it's like friends to lovers, and it just wasn't for me. And I know so many people absolutely love this series, but it just didn't work for me. The next series is actually one that I did enjoy the first book, but I don't really care to finish the series. I liked the way that the first book ended and enjoyed the first book, but not enough to continue on to the next one, and that's the Bargainers series by Laura Thalassa. The first book, the one that I read, was called Rhapsodic. It is a fantasy romance or paranormal romance series, and it follows a girl who is human, I believe, and she makes a deal with the Bargainer, and the Bargainer is this like fantasy creature guy, I guess. He has magical powers or whatever. It's basically like he does something for you and you owe a debt to him. So this girl ends up having beads that represent the amount of debts that she owes to the bargainer, and she has like over 300 or something, and ends up having a romance with this bargainer. And I enjoyed it. I liked the way that it went in the first book, but I just don't have any desire to read the rest of the series. The next one is another one where I enjoyed the first book, but I don't want to continue, and that is the Hades and Persephone series by Scarlett St. Clair. I read A Touch of Darkness, and I know a lot of people are like, could go either way on this book. So I know a lot of people that gave it 5 stars absolutely loved it, and I know a lot of people that absolutely hated it. And for this one, I feel like if you listen to the audiobook, you are more likely to enjoy the series, enjoy the book, because the people that I know that read it physically on the ebook, they noticed a lot more like grammatical issues and like sentence structure and writing issues, and that it was not the best writing. But the people who listen to the audiobook don't really notice that, because a lot of the times when you're doing the audiobook, it just sounds more natural. So this is a Hades and Persephone retelling, I guess. And Hades owns this like nightclub, and Persephone works as a journalist, I believe, and she gets invited to Hades nightclub, and the two of them meet. And I think that Persephone makes a deal with Hades. And I really enjoyed it. I think I gave it 4 or 4.5 stars. I very, very much enjoyed it, but it felt to me like it didn't need more books. I liked the story of the first one, and I feel fulfilled in my Hades and Persephone story, and I don't feel a need to read the rest of the series. And I think that there are like quite a few books in the series. I don't really need to read the rest of them. A series that I read the first 3 books in was the Fulton U series by Maya Hughes. I read, and I absolutely loved the first book in the series, which I think is called The Perfect First, but then I didn't like the second or the third one. The second one was okay, and the third one I really didn't like. And I now have absolutely no desire to read the fourth one. These are new adult, I think they're football romances, and I hated the third one. And I didn't really like the second one. It was just okay. It was like 3-ish stars. But I still really liked the first one, so I just don't feel a need to continue and read the fourth one with a statistical probability that I will not like it. I'm gotten to a point where I have sort of an issue with new adult. There are still new adult books that I like, and if it's like a author that I stand by and that I really enjoy, then I'll try new adult still. But most new adult books, I feel as though I'm outgrowing them, I guess, and I prefer more adult books. I feel like the more often than not, when I'm reading new adult books, the conflicts seem juvenile, and I tend to run into more issues of miscommunication and not communicating and stupid misunderstandings that just drive me bonkers, that I'm like, if you had just talked to your partner, you wouldn't have an issue. Or you get the like classic new adult plots like The Bet or stuff like that, where I feel like I've read it and now it's just repetitive. Another series that I've read a couple of books in the series is the Cloverley Farm series. The first book in this series I think is called Irresistible, and it's a single dad romance. And its age gap, and I enjoyed it enough. I think I gave it 3.5 stars. And then the second book in the series, which follows another one of the sisters, I didn't like at all. I think I gave it 1 star. So this series is just, I'm not really the biggest fan. I've learned that I'm not the biggest fan of Melanie Harlow in general. I don't like her repetitive plot lines, and I'm not a fan of her heroes or her heroines. Her heroines to me seem very much like I need to get married because being married is how you be happy. And the heroes end up always having commitment issues, and I just don't care for that. So I have gotten to a point where I'm not really interested in reading most Melanie Harlow books. I think that I would possibly be open to reading like the next generation of Melanie Harlow ones, like Taste and Tease, I think are what they're called. Those ones seem like a little bit more, I would like them, but Cloverley Farms and Bellamy Creek, I have learned that I'm not really a huge fan of. The Kingmaker Chronicles by Amanda Boucher is another one. I read and absolutely loved A Promise of Fire, which I believe is the first book, is called A Promise of Fire. I loved that book. I gave it 5 stars. It's a fantasy romance and I really, really enjoyed it. It's one of my favorite fantasy romances. I don't want anything else to happen, I guess, to like ruin that idea. I have that problem with a lot of fantasy romances where I really like the books and then it ends up going in a direction that I don't like. So there are a couple of other fantasy romance series that also fit into this. Another one is a series with A Heart of Blood and Ashes. Is that what it's called? By Milla Vane. That one also, I enjoyed the first one, but I have absolutely no desire to continue with the series. So I'm not the biggest fantasy romance person in the first place. So I don't want to commit and read lots of long series that I only really like the first book in. Another series is the Emerald Lake series by Britt Andrews. This is a paranormal reverse harem series that I believe I read the first 2 or 3 books in, and I think there are maybe 6 books in the series, 5 or 6 books in the series, and I enjoyed the first one, and the second one was okay, the third one was like, and I just lost interest. It's another series that just like went in a direction that I didn't care for. I feel like it did not need to be 6 books. It could have been only like 3 or 4 books and it could have been entirely a good series. But the books ended up being, even like the third one ended up being long and drawn out, and just like they were writing just to make the series longer and not that it added anything to the plot or the romance. So I don't want to continue reading. Another series is the Dive Bar series by Kylie Scott. For this series, I actually DNF'd the first book in the series. I enjoy the Stage Dive series by Kylie Scott, or I enjoyed book 1 and book 3 in the Stage Dive series by Kylie Scott. But her writing is not my favorite. Her books just don't really work for me. And Lead by Kylie Scott is a book which I very much stand by and very much enjoy, just happens to be an outlier. So I keep reading her books to try and get another one that I like as much as Lead. But I haven't really loved any of her books other than Lead. I did enjoy Lick, which I believe is the first book in the Stage Dive series, but I didn't like the second one or the 4th book in the Stage Dive series, so I've decided to just nope. Another series is the Brentwood Boys by Megan Quinn. Megan Quinn is an author who I have a lot of struggle with because there are books of hers that I absolutely love and there are books of hers that I absolutely hate. And so it's hard for me to decide which ones are ones that I'm gonna like and which ones are ones that I'm not going to like. But the Brentwood Boys series seems to be a series that doesn't really work for me. I did like The Dugout, which I read, and I think I gave that one like a low 4-star. I enjoyed that one, but I also read The Locker Room, and I didn't like that, and I think I read 1 or 2 others in the series and didn't like them. But I just am not a fan of the series. It's another new adult sports romance, and this is a series that really fits into that whole repetitive plot line of new adult, and the conflicts just seem very juvenile that I just don't care for them. Another series is the This Is series by Natasha Madison. I read the first book and the second book in this series. The first book was fine, and the second book I hated. This is a adult hockey series, and each book follows like a different member of a family, I think, and they're like a hockey royalty family. And the first book was good. It was good enough. Like I enjoyed my time reading it. It wasn't amazing or anything. I think I gave it like 3.5 stars. And then I read the second one, and I absolutely hated the second one. I should have DNF'd the second one, but I finished it, and I think I gave it like 1 star. I really did not like it. So, not for me. Then another one is the Ashes and Embers series by Carrie and Cole. I read Storm, which I believe is the first one, and I gave it 3 stars, and it's a rockstar romance series, and rockstar romance series are very hard for me. There are only very certain ones that I like with rockstar romances, so they're not usually my favorite, and this one just didn't really work for me. Then the last series that I'm going to mention on here is one that is that I have actually loved the first 2 books in it, but I'm not going to continue, is another fantasy romance series, and that is the From Blood and Ash series by Jennifer L. Armentrout. I loved the first book, From Blood and Ash, and I loved the second book, Flesh and Fire, whatever it is. I can't find them on my bookshelf, so I'm like trying to read the covers and I can't find them on my freaking bookshelf. Oh, they're covered. A Kingdom of Flesh and Fire. Whatever the first 2 books in the series are, I gave both of them 5 stars. I absolutely love them, but I am not interested in learning. And again, I'm not interested in the author taking it in a direction that I don't like. I'm not interested in the author ruining the characters that I know in my heart that I love how they are right now. I am not interested in a series that's going to be drawn out for so long. I believe that Jennifer L. Armentrout has like 6 books or something planned in this series, and I just don't think it needs that. I think that I love Poppy and I love Hawk the way that they are in my head. I love Kieran the way that he is in my head, and I have no desire for those characters to be ruined by what the author decides to do with them. So I don't care what direction they decide to take it. I am going to keep them the way that I like them in my head. So, yeah, but that is the last one that I was going to mention. So again, please let me know your thoughts in the comments on these series. If you love these series, please tell me why you love them, and try and convince me to continue reading them. But that is all of the ones that I'm going to mention. So please like this video if you liked it, and subscribe and stick around so you can see more content from me. But that is going to be it. So I hope you have a great day. Bye.